movie actor, as use like job titles. And that will prompt me to create a movie actor. So var movie actor is equals to new person. So we are using this, and so you see there's a no argument constructor that I'm already using. So if I want to pass in the value, I can just say, I don't know if this is a movie actor, but he's a character in a movie. Bruce Wayne is the name, and age maybe 87. Those Batman movies like came out long ago, so must be really old. Of course, if you're doing JSON processing, you can run into like IO exemptions or processing exemptions. So yeah, I'm not going to do try catch because that will force me to like start explaining exemption handling in Java, and I don't think we'll have time for that. It's already 9. But anyway, just know that there's this JSON processing exemption that can be thrown when we are trying to convert this object into JSON. So we are doing that throws to say, okay, we know the error will occur, but we don't care that much, so the program can fail. And when you do this, of course, the program will fail. If you want to keep the program from failing, you do a try catch. Okay, why did I get into that? But anyway, this is how we do the try catch. So you say try catch, and you say the name of the exemption, which is the JSON processing exemption. Of course, it's a variable, and the code that might potentially throw the exemption is put inside the try block. So if the exemption occurs, the chain of execution changes and it comes to the catch block, and here you can do things like recovery, or you could just print the error. So in this case, I'll just print the error. Multiple options in printing the error. You can do print stack trace, so that will print the whole exemption, like a really long string that explains exactly, it gives you the call chain, like it started failing from here, then there, then there. So it will take you through all those classes to where the exemption originated, and it gives you like a caused by clause. So it can tell you, yeah, this exemption occurred here, but it was caused by this other thing. 1 second. Yeah, so it will tell you that this exemption occurred at this particular point, but it was for the thing. Basically, it gives you a lot of information that allows you to like debug that problem. Okay, so then this should give us the JSON representation of the person, and I think I'll just go ahead and print it. So S out the JSON. Let's see. We had that thing here. Make this one sprint line. Nice. So now we have JSON. There's a way you can pretty print this, but especially, in fact, I wanted to like pretty print it so that we're able to do some fancy things with it. But I can't remember how to do the pretty print so that it has the tab spaces. So since I can't remember how to do it with Jackson, I'll just use an online tool. Format JSON. Yes, there's somebody out there who is maintaining this. This thing has been live since I can remember. I've used it for almost 10 years now. And somebody diligently maintains it. So bless their soul. I can't imagine they're making a lot of money from this. But anyway, it's still live. A lot of these tools, you usually see them be live for like a year or a few months, and then they go dead. But yeah, this guy has kept this one live, so that's good. So now we have a pretty printed JSON, but basically you guys have seen what happened there. So we were able to create this person class. We were able to instantiate that person class, and we're able to convert the contents of that person class into a JSON string and printed it. So let's just do the pretty version of the JSON string. And this is an excellent segue, because the problem I'm about to face right now leads us into text blocks. So it's actually nice. So I've just pasted the string that we got from that online tool, and already you can see how not so great that code looks, but it achieves the purpose. We're able to get a pretty printed version of the JSON, but the code looks horrible. It's not great. So what if we wanted this to look good? The main challenge here is that we are having to use escape sequence. That's why you saw that JEP discuss escape sequence as like the introductory concept. We're having to use escape sequence syntax to format the string. And we're doing that because the string is multiline and tabbed. And those tab spaces actually mean something. Like in JSON, or if you're doing YAML, the tab spaces are not just decoration. They actually indicate some syntax type thing. So maybe if you wanted to have the string representation of the JSON and pass it over to some API that can process the JSON, and you don't want the tab space and the way you formatted the JSON to be interfered with, then you'd have to go through that hell, or even just making the code readable, you'd have to go through that. This is a simple object. Usually you have multiple chain objects where you have a person, they have a name, they have an age, and then there's a nested JSON array of like the movies they've starred in. Like they've starred in 10 movies, and then all those movies are listed, and each movie has like a complex JSON representation. So it can get really ugly really fast, and makes it easy and makes it difficult to do JSON type processing for like within your program. If you think this is far-fetched, an example that I usually have to deal with, or at least I dealt with, you guys might laugh at me because maybe this is the wrong way of doing this, but when you're doing automated email delivery from your server backend, you usually work with the email templates, and those email templates are HTML code. And usually, if you don't want to like have an HTML file that you like read at runtime, you can just have the HTML and the CSS as a string representation, the same way we have the JSON. And then when you're delivering the email, you take that string representation and just deliver it. Then having that HTML, HTML works with the tab spaces and this sort of JSON type representation. So if that you're not able to represent that HTML properly, then you end up with some really ugly looking code, and it feels out of place. So let's go back to the JEP. But before we go back to JEP, I think let me do what was requested earlier, and show what this would be like if we used records. But it would be unfair of me to do that without talking about what records are. So I can't remember the JEP ID for records. And let me see if I can just Google it. I think it's 395. So this is the JEP that introduced the records feature within the language. And so there are classes that act as transparent carriers for immutable data. So they can be thought of as tuples. Basically, what that statement is telling you is you are able to create a model without going through the ceremony of having setters and getters, and accessing values from that model accessing the values within that model is easier. There's a bit more, of course, technical detail. I'm really simplifying that idea, but the advantage is more of how the code ends up looking than like the advantages you get at runtime. So for instance, this would be a class point. It has properties, and then it has a constructor. It has, what I would assume are the getters, because they're returning the values, and it should have some toString. It has hash code. Basically, this is the boilerplate you'd have to write so that you work with the point. But that can be simplified into just a record, a representation. So if you look at this sample, you have a record point X, Y. End of story. So you don't need to do anything. So all this is implicit. So you don't need to declare the properties. You don't need to define the hash code functions. You don't need to define the getters and setters. You don't need to do anything, and you don't need to add those notations that I was using. So it really, really simplifies that concept. And the way the values are accessed is also different. So let me just convert this into a record. And working with records, of course, now this string name will be in the brackets and integer will be in the brackets. And now we don't need this. And since we don't need that, we don't need this. So all that code is reduced to just that. And you can see none of the stuff that we did earlier facing any failures. If you want to access the properties, so this is where things get a bit different. So let's say I wanted to access the name, or I want to print this person. I would probably say sout actor, then maybe have their movie actor dot name. So I'm not doing get name. If it was the previous class, I would do a get name, and I can do movie actor dot age. There's property access and functional access. I don't know the difference. So, but anyway, we're in this. Let me see what the difference is. I always by default do that, but there seems to be like some static like access there. So let's see what happens. Oh, okay. Not much of a difference, but I think I'll research why they allow this, because what I knew is that you'd have to do that to access the properties. But anyway, you can see you can access the properties, and you can basically use it like any other object. Okay, so let's go back to this. So the guy who asked, I think at least we have that. A similar thing happens in Kotlin. So you kind of have the same representation. And since we are in IntelliJ, they can just go ahead and what happened to IntelliJ? I thought I could just do a Kotlin file. Okay, I might add it and then it interferes with the project. But I thought I could just do a Kotlin file here. But anyway, we don't need that. If we go to Kotlin lang, there's a playground here. So you don't need to go through the stress of setting up things. So just how would that look like in Kotlin? I hope this won't be restrictive, but basically you have a data class, person, and in that data class you can have a name, you can have an age, and you can specify that this to be an integer. The Kotlin can imply the type, so I don't necessarily have to explicitly say what it's going to be. And then we can have our val actor equals to person, and I'm guessing we can just pass the name. I was using Bruce Wayne, and can pass their age of 87. And there we get our print line, print. And something that we'll end up discussing as well here is you can do interpolation. So you can just say actor, or if you want to access a specific property of the actor, you can do something like actor dot name. If this fails, it fails. The integer literal, this is Java creeping into my head. Anyway, so you guys see, so we can display the whole actor object, and that's it. Or you can access the specific property. So what we've done here is called string interpolation. In Java, you do something different called string concatenation, and that's where you see we are doing these plus symbols. And we're going to look at JEPs that actually talk about those ideas. So I think it will be interesting. Okay, so now that's covered. I want this documented, so let me just leave the reference material here. Okay, so if you want to learn more about records, you can look at that. When I push the repo, it will come with all those links. So yeah, you guys can check it out. Okay, let's go back to the main agenda. So we've looked at the problem. We don't want this. So like how do we get rid of that? So then comes text blocks. So you saw in the first paragraph they were talking about text blocks is a multi-line string literal that avoids the need for most escape sequences. Escape sequence, in this case, they're referring to the /n, and in some cases the /t that we talked about for like doing tab spaces and a new line. Yeah, so then automatically format the string in operator and gives the developer control over the format when they desire. Okay, so they were proposed in 355 back in 2019. I wonder where you were in 2019. This is before COVID, by the way. So, yeah. And the exploration began in JEP 326 for string literals, and of course that was brought in JDK 12, and basically this tells you how like the implementation of that feature evolved. Let me just go directly to some examples. So, and it's the same thing. What Java is trying to do is to add capability. It's something that Python and other languages do really well. It's to add the capability to do data processing within your program easily. So if you're doing JSON, if you're passing JSON, if you're passing some YAML file, maybe to extract extract configurations for your like DevOps environment or something like that. If you are doing like what I was talking about, doing automated email delivery, and you're doing it with the HTML templates, which is basically just HTML, CSS code, you can be able to do that within your program without writing really ugly code or going through the stress of worrying about like, oh yeah, I mean, sorry, thanks, DJ Solution. So DJ Solution says, I agree, Python is the Swiss Army knife and passes everything. Yeah, Python is very interesting. We look at some of the PEPs. It's able to do a lot of data processing within program, but of course sometimes it goes too far. Like we look at PEP. I think it's PEP. I had it saved up somewhere here on my PyCharm. Which PEP was that? Structural pattern matching. I think 049 literal string interpolation. Yeah, it's this one. This, in my opinion, is maybe it's because I don't understand it, but I find it to be close to madness because what that language propose, what this PEP talks about is, it's nuts. Not to deviate from the point, but let me just give you guys a glimpse on like what I mean. So let me just get this on. So guys who've never written Python before like me, this is like a mini Python editor. So look at this example. So if I have age, comma, name is equals to, in fact, let me invert it so that it looks more like the sample we have. If I have name, comma, age equals to Bruce Wayne, comma, 87. So if then I went ahead and did, I hope I get this correctly. If I did actor is name and his age, not to be gender biased here, but anyway, let me just allow me to use his age is age. Look at that. How is the language able to know that that's my intent? So just by this expression, the language is already doing interpolation for. So first of all, it infers the values. So if I say name, comma, age is equals to this, that, and this is a simplified example, by the way. The language knows to assign Bruce Wayne to name and age to 87. And of course, those are stored as variables. I'm not even doing type declaration here. Then you can go ahead and do interpolation and like display the values. Of course, in a real program, you'll be able to do something a bit more complex with those values. So that eliminates the need to do maps You don't need to like create a whole hash map like we do in Java. You don't need to create a whole record data class. We had to create a class and instantiate that class and pass values to the instance that we just created, and now print the values. And we had to do like 20 lines to like get that done. Yeah, Python tells you hold my beer and like does that in one line with a lot of inference. What I'm curious about is whether this is restricted to type, although like Python infers type, so I could do something weird like age name is equals to let's say I do, yeah, whichever way I switch up the types here, it won't even affect the program. So if I do Bruce Wayne, pardon my caps lock, I think I pressed it by accident, is equals to 87. If I said age, yeah, I'll get Bruce Wayne. Of course, I don't expect that the program will know that age is usually a number. You know, that's like AI level stuff. But it's just interesting. You could write some fairly difficult to read programs with these constructs. But anyway, that's just me. We'll look a bit more into it. So yeah, so actually the example that I showed there is a mild version of what the Python programming language endeavors to support. So PEP 622, structural pattern matching, takes that aspect a bit further. And I think it introduces more implicit like data processing. So you could look at your switch case statement and push it to like 10 levels of complexity. I saw some examples that were using switch. Yeah, in fact, some of them are defined here. So if anybody programs Python, maybe they can understand what this code does. So using my Java brain, I would imagine this is a function that receives a complex object pointer that, it's a pointer, maybe it has an X and Y value. And this would be my when block in Kotlin or my switch block in Java. And basically it's saying I'm evaluating pointer, and I have a case. If it's XY, return a pointer 3D, XY, and then make the Z value 0. So I'm able to like compose an object from the object I received. If it is XYZ, which means it's already in 3D, just return the 3D representation. If it is already defined as a point to 2D object, if it's a point 2D object type, then just convert it to point 3D with Z scale 0 and return it. Otherwise, no, if it's a pointer 3D, I don't know what that means. Maybe somebody in the chat can explain. I don't know what the underscore means in Python. In Swift, we usually use them when you don't want to pass an argument to a function. But at this point, we are evaluating an object. So I'm curious what this case would mean. I won't lie, I don't know what it means. So yeah. So then I think this is default case, type error, not a point we support. Yeah, so interesting stuff. So you can see it's evaluating this object by like saying, does it contain these properties? In Java, maybe we would classify this under reflection. But it's like able to evaluate the object by like going into the object and checking whether it has XY properties. And XY could mean anything. Judging from the example I showed you earlier, X could be a floating type value, it can be a string, it can be a Boolean, it can be any value. And Python has the intelligence to like evaluate and handle multiple cases. But I guess the purpose of this function is to take a 2D object and convert it into a 3D object by giving a Z scale of 0, or giving 0 to like the Z. Of course, you guys know 3D geometry. So you have X, Y, and then you have Z. So I think that's what they're doing here. And if it's already a 3D object, just return the 3D representation. So this is what the PEP seeks to introduce, and I think it was already introduced. I'm currently running Python. I'm running Python 1.2, if I'm not wrong, and this was brought in Python 3.1. So if it was accepted, then I guess it's part of the language. So actually, this code should work. So in that I don't want to construct pointer, otherwise I would have tried it out. Okay. So DI solution says in Python, the underscore is often used as a placeholder for a variable whose value is intentionally ignored or not used. Okay. It's a convention to indicate that the variable is not going to be used in the code block. It's most useful when you are unpacking values from a tuple. Oh yeah, for example, and you're not interested in one or more of the values. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So yeah, so if you're not interested in processing the value of the tuple, you can just mark it as underscore. So then that value will be ignored. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. DI solutions, if you could provide a sample, just a one line of how unpacking, if you could do an example of like unpacking a tuple with maybe like 3 values and you're ignoring one of them with the underscore, I think it would be nice. Just do that and paste it in. Example for dash in some tuple. Let me show you guys the example that is showing and see whether it works. Give me a Turing complete example so that I can just run it, not scratch my head. Oh, yeah, my idol has disappeared. Let's see. For in some tuple, okay. I don't know if I can run that here. Maybe I need to use PyCharm for it. Sorry guys, if you're jumping like from language to some other language, that's the whole idea of WorldGuard. We are supposed to like, not just focus on one particular language, but be able to like see how these features relate between languages, and also, expose ourselves to new ideas. So I think that's interesting. Yeah, but Elisha, that example doesn't give me one that maybe has the contents of the tuple. So one that I could actually use, Elisha. I'm hoping this can be like a one-liner. So okay, so let me just create that in Python version. I'm guessing it's like a ritual. You need to have those double underscore values. Guys, somebody in the chat can correct me if it's not a Python thing. So since I got this, I've just been doing it. I've forgotten how to do the main method. Okay. So if dash name equals to main I think that's how you do it. What did I miss? Indent expected. Okay. Format. Okay, or maybe they just want me to underline. Okay, so let me type in what Elisha has provided there. So he has a point is equals to 1, 2, 3. So I guess that's the tuple. And then unpack the values, but we're not interested in the second value. Oh yeah, so when we're unpacking it, we can say x, comma, we don't care about 2, and can say z is equals to point. Yeah, nice. So this is the tuple. Tuple declaration, and then this would be unpacking. Unpacking. Okay. So now we have XYZ. So I guess we can go ahead and print. Print those values. Use F for this. So x is x and y is, sorry, z is z. Let's see if that can, oh yeah, so we get x is 1, z is 3. So we've successfully skipped 2. Nice. This is good. Thanks, yeah. Thanks, Alicia. Sorry, DI. Thanks, DI Solutions for that. Okay. So anyway, let's go back to this. So let's go back to text blocks. So like I was saying, so when you are doing data processing within your program, so there's some examples here. So where we are trying to represent HTML code within like Java code. So you'll notice this is what we have with our JSON, where you have to do the plus \n, and it's horrendous. It's not great. I don't know if there's anybody still in the space. Oh, there's guys in the space. Okay. Yeah, there's 3 guys. I mean, with the way we are doing the meet, I know it would be difficult for somebody to like join us in the space. So, and also some other good news, I forgot to click record. So this episode it ended to I won't be able to upload it to YouTube. So I'll record the next one. So no stress. Okay. Yeah, so this is what we are trying to avoid. So the way we do that, we use a 2-dimensional block text. So it starts with 3 text and then 3 quotations, then we have 3 quotations, and then we have the text inside. So now that eliminates the need for having the escape sequence in every line. So if you apply that to our example, it means we would do s out. I don't know if I can just refactor that one. Let me see if the IDE can detect it. So we can do something like this. So we have that. Let me represent it first. Var pretty JSON. Pretty JSON is equals to da da da. There you go. And then we can have the contents of the JSON there. I hope I still have that site up. Oof, I already deleted it. Would have just pasted that. Okay, now it is. So then we can have the JSON. So you see how much nicer that is. So we've moved from this to this with that specification. I know guys in other languages are looking at this and laughing because they already had this maybe 10 versions ago. So, but Java introduced it in, I think that came in Java 15. Yeah, not very long ago. I'm seeing the thing was created in 2020, the JEP. I don't know when the release version was done, but yeah, around that time. So that's what text blocks allows us to be able to achieve. So a few points on text blocks. I think I had documented how we are going to like look at it. So text blocks is an alternative form of a string representation. So what that means is the text block is not different from the Java string. So the properties and the functions that are available under the Java string specification can be adopted to text blocks. And let me just go to the spec and see if we can look at some of the things that are supported in java.lang.string and see whether we can do the same things essentially with the text blocks. So as is tradition, you'll see me refer a lot to like the specification. I think it's like a good guide. Let me just paste this on the chat, but you guys can Google it and like pull it up and see what I'm talking about. So the string class represents a character string. All string literals in Java programs such as ABC implement as instances of this class. So you can have string ABCD or ABC. This is what you do in C. You'd need to have like a character array. Somebody told me that string standard library now supports or already supported string representation, so you didn't need to do a character array. But basically, this is what underlying string would ideally represent. So it's just a combination of characters. Yeah, Joe, you are late, man. We were expecting you early. But thanks for joining, Joe. So Joe has joined us on the Google Meet. Oh yeah, so we're looking at the string spec, just a way for you to represent a combination of characters without like doing this C-style processing. But basically, if you have an array of characters, you can passing it to the constructor of string, and you're able to compose an actual string. Or you could just pass this, and you'll still be able to do the same thing. Or you could just do equals to quotation, and the Java runtime will be able to understand what you mean by that. Basically, you're constructing a string. So you could print strings. You can declare new instances of strings. You can do concatenation, which is taking one string and another string and then putting them together to form one final string. We did concatenation here in this sample. Where is it? Yeah, so this is in concatenation. So we have actor. So this is a string. We combine it with movieactor.name. We combine it with an empty space. We combine it with movieactor.age, and then we end up with actor Bruce Wayne 87. So multiple strings composed, and like multiple strings and values composed to like form one string. So the string spec has functions and methods for like doing string processing. So if you want to combine strings, you want to concatenate strings, you want to do substring, you can be able to like find those methods. Yeah, so there's some methods here like you can like fetch character art. You can compare strings. You can concat. Basically, it's like a way of taking one string and another string and combining them. The main point that you should understand with strings in Java, not just, I think in other languages it might be different, but strings in Java are immutable. So if you create a string, if you want to modify that string, you have to create another string. So you cannot reuse the string. So when we do, let me just demonstrate that immutability, if you guys don't mind. Strings are immutable. So when we declare a string, like we say var message is equals good morning. So that's a string. Let me not use var here so that we can relate with what we're doing. So we've declared a string. So if we want to modify this string, it's permanent. We can modify it. If you want to make changes to this message, we have to create another copy of strings. So let's say you do some processing on this string. Maybe you didn't want to have, maybe you wanted to remove this space. So you do something like message dot replace the space with heart emoji. I hope I can get a heart emoji. Oof. Give me a heart emoji. Yeah, you can just proceed. Maybe introduce yourself so I know who is speaking. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I wanted a heart emoji. So instead of having the space there, so the person you're sending this to would be happier if there was a heart emoji instead of like an empty space to show like, yeah. So if the moment you do this, you've created a new string. So this creates a new instance. So you create a new copy. This one still remains good morning. So let's do something interesting to also validate whether I'm right or I'm being too trusting of that idea. So let's try and print the message. So we've done replacement. So replacement just takes this, and where there is this space, and replaces it with a hat. So let's see if I'm right. And let's display the message. Yeah, so you see what's happening. So we still have good morning, although we've done replacement. So that replacement didn't go through. Instead, a new instance was created. And now if you want to get the new string with the hat, you have to do string loving, oh, come on, loving message. And now if we print loving message, we get message with the hat. So you see now we have like two strings. The moment you try to do modification on a string, you've created a new string. So if you don't know that aspect of the language, you can easily make logical errors in your program because oh, in line 31 I did replacement, so the string should be changed to this new format, but in real sense it's immutable, so it won't be modified the moment you instantiate it. That's just an important idea to have. So there's multiple things you can do here. You can check whether the string ends with a particular character. You can look for an index or a character in the string. Some of these methods, you don't know you really need them until you need them. So if maybe you're doing regex, or you're doing some form of string processing in your code, then you'll be like, okay, do I write code for this? And then you realize, oh, the spec already has an API for doing that. So I'll want us to like take one. I think I can use the one that I've used to show this example to demonstrate this other idea that text blocks are strings. They behave the same way. They are immutable. There's a way you modify them. You can access those methods for like processing them. They are kind of the same. So let's do an interesting good morning text. I don't know if you can do a good morning text in JSON, or I use the person object that we had earlier. Should I go through the struggle of doing another one? What do I do here? Okay, let's do a multiline. So that day you woke up and decided to do a paragraph. So let's do a paragraph. So bar long message. So this time we'll do a text block like so. And this one starts with good. Maybe it starts with something interesting like angry. Maybe it starts with an angry emoji. Then goes good morning. This person is really angry, so maybe they just say morning. This is to inform you once and for all. We are done. And they do that. And do like a smirk. They say cheers. And yeah, I should try comedy. maybe I can make it in comedy. How do I do a smug face? Yeah. Cheers. Yes. So now this is a more expanded good morning text. Very nice message to wake up to. Especially if you woke up late and the person thought that you ignored their message. So now this is just another string. So let's say they decided to, maybe you woke up late and they were like, maybe this person ignored my message, and they decided to expound on it. So we'll do another replace function, and they're like, that we are done doesn't look really serious. So let's replace we are done with any suggestions? Which one would seem more stern? Maybe they say you can forget those deadlines. Yeah, so that you have to like imply for yourself what they actually mean. So if we go ahead and S out this long message, I need a way to distinguish this. So I'll do, let me do like a boundary so that we can be able to distinguish where we started and where we stopped. So if we go ahead and S out this, you guys can guess what happened. If this behaves like strings, we should not get, you can forget those date nights, we should get warning, this is to inform you, blah, blah, blah. So let's write that. Yeah, so you see it's behaving exactly like a string would behave. And that's a very important point, because now you know you are not dealing with a different API, you're dealing with a strings API. It's just that, you know, you have syntactic sugar, it's easier to represent multi-line text, it's easier to represent indented text. So you can represent HTML easily, you can represent JSON easily, or in just a case where you want to represent multi-line text, you can do that easily without having, you know, ridiculous looking code. So now what if we wanted to have this updated version? So this would behave like WhatsApp. So in WhatsApp, I think I told recently, I think even now the feature that they have where you can like edit a message, it resends another message. Previously, you'll have to delete the other one to create this new one. So let's say you already got the notification, but then they edited, so that becomes another text. Maybe you got the notification and dismissed. So let's call this angry text. So now our angrier text becomes, yeah, warning. This is to inform you once and for all, you can forget those date nights. So we are done is now replaced with you can forget those date nights. Cheers. DI solutions, I would be interested to see how this would look in Python. I'm sure Python will do something that would make me feel embarrassed for writing all this code. But I would love to see how that would look in Python. I'm sure it would be really, really short. Although looking at the spec, I don't know if Python has text blocks. That's one thing that I was not able to determine. I think we'll be able to determine it by trying to write that in the language. I saw an API called Textwrap that we'll look at, but it kind of tries to emulate the text block feature. And instead of talking about we are going to see, we just do it. So we've done Java. Let's go to Python and try and see. I'd like you guys to keep in mind that I don't write Python on a day-to-day. So if I make funny mistakes, yeah, have some grace. So we'll try and do the same thing we did there. But I'd like us to look at the spec the same way we look at the spec for the strings API. So let's look at this Textwrap spec. So Textwrap is a standard library API. So it means it's like baked into the language. So you just need to import it and you're good to go. And it allows text wrapping and filling, which is basically, you know, text wrap is where you have multiple lines and you want to like collapse them. So this kind of allows you to do that. So the text wrap module provides some convenience functions as well as text wrapper, the class that does all the work. Okay, if you are just wrapping or filing one or two text strings, this function, the convenience function should be good enough. Otherwise, you should use an instance of text wrapper for efficiency. Okay, yeah, by the so text wrapper.wrap, then you pass in the text, and then you pass in the width and some other arguments, initial ident. So you can provide how much tab space you want, I think. Subsequent ident, okay, and expand tabs, true, replace white space, fix sentence ending. So for guys on the Twitter space, let me share these specs so that you guys can see what we are talking about. Python text wrapper, Python text wrapper. Okay, nobody's complaining, so that's good. I thought guys would complain. Oh, we are stuck here and guys are enjoying. I hope Lorna was able to hear us. We started. You can join on Meet or continue to listen. Yeah, I am seeing my mic is on, so. Yeah, so if you're on Twitter Space and you want to get more visuals, you can join the Google Meet. The link is under the space there, in the comments. So, but if you are not able to, you can just listen in. I think it will be fine. Okay, so we are looking at the Textwrap aspect, and yeah, wraps a single paragraph in text. So every line is at most width character long, returns a list, blah, blah, blah. So this is some interesting things you can do with this. So there's join, there is shorten. So this one shortens text. Let's try out that shorten function. So I'll be jumping in between this. I don't know how to. I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, like idol or whatever. But I'll be jumping between this and Python. I'll be jumping between this and Python. If I think something is short, I'll write it here. If it's a bit longer or I need code completion, I'll go to Python. So let's try this. So you can, in this case, I'll want to define a message like we had earlier, although this will be a different message. And this could be you up. This is not a B call. So okay, so we can use that. Let me intentionally make a mistake here and expand that. So it's 1, 2, 3. So it's longer, and maybe I fumbled my fingers and like added extra space. So we can go ahead and say message. So you see, we got that. Okay. Oh, I meant to write not, but anyway. Then we can go and say text wrap dot shorten, and I'm guessing here we can just pass the text that we already defined, in this case message, and we want to shorten it by the really long text. So let's say, let me just use 10. I'm curious to see what we end up with. And traceback most recent call. What did I do wrong? Textwrap is not defined. Oh, I need to import it. I don't know if I can do imports within the interpreter. If I can call this the interpreter, the REPL, whatever. If I can do, no, I don't think that will work. Can I do imports on the REPL? I thought it would reference standard by default. Is it possible? Guys. Okay, by the silence, I guess it's not. So let me just go back to Python. So under Textwrap, I think I ended up doing the tuple example here. Okay, I'll move that later. So I'll just do the same thing. So message equals, this is not a B call, and then I add some extra space, and then we do Textwrap dot shorten, and we say the message is long, shortened by 10. So you see, message wrap is important. So I thought the REPL would be able to pass it in by default because it's like a standard library API, but anyway, guess not. So here lies an interesting thing. in Java, if we did this modification, it would not affect message because like message is immutable. So I guess this gives us an opportunity to see how Python handles strings. So I'll just put message. I don't need to prefix it. This is interesting. Is it that my shorten method didn't work, or the message is actually immutable? Let me try increasing the amount. See what happens. Yeah, it's still the same. Yeah, this is interesting. Let me use the example and see if text.shorten hello world with 12. So that removes this extra space that's here. So now we just have hello world. Let me see how that works out. So if this was just hello world and shortened it to 12 with 12. Let's see what happens. I'm seeing an extra space there. Does this mean that the Python string is immutable? Or anybody has an idea? Because I was expecting this space to disappear, and that should not have been there. So Alicia, you're saying yep. So it means it's immutable. Guys on Twitter space, are Python strings immutable? Let me see if I can see on the spec what this shorten returns. Textwrap shorten, collapse and truncate the given text to fit in the given width. All the white space is replaced by a single space. If the result fits in the width, it is returned. Otherwise, enough words are dropped from the end so that the remaining words plus the placeholder fit within the width. Then why am I not seeing that change? Because then we shortened by 12. Let's see if it's because okay. Let me see if it's just removing trailing white space. But it's difficult to tell whether trailing white space is removed because of this type of representation. Oh yeah, DI solutions then. So in Python, strings are immutable. So then I guess that leads to the second question is, somebody raised their hand. Yeah, Arthur, you can go ahead and speak. How do I? Okay, I'm not able to unmute you, so I think you can just unmute and go ahead and speak, if that's possible. Or is there something I'm supposed to be able to do? Yeah, because I'm unmuting you, but I'm not able to. And it seems the controls are such that I can't unmute. I can't individually unmute a person. Oh, okay. Yeah, if you don't have a microphone, I think you can just You can just tell us what you want to say on the chat. Yeah, that's Python. Okay, so anyway, let me go back to this. So what I'm expecting is if this is immutable, and it seems like it is, because every modification I'm not seeing that in the output, then I think it would imply that shorten would give me a value, the new value of the string, since it's not mutating the one I declared. So then does that mean I can do this? Yep. I guess we found a point where the point of intersection between Python and Java. So the string is immutable. Therefore, if you do a modification, you have to assign the new string to a value and then print the result of that value. Otherwise, you just end up with the same string. So you can notice this additional space that I had here, it's gone. Let me have a much longer text, like this kombucha is really nice. Oh yeah, so everything after this is truncated, and I guess it's replaced by default by this. I'm guessing from what I saw in the API documentation, I can define my own replacement. So maybe I can replace it with an emoji. Edit. I can replace it with the laughing emoji. Trace back, byline, Textwrap shorten. Push, but 3 were given. Oh, okay. Let's look at the spec. So you can say, oh yeah, so you, but here we are passing the text, passing the width, and then we passing the placeholder. Yeah, just passed in the placeholder. I mean, I admit it's a weird placeholder, but it's still a placeholder. Or maybe I need to label the text. What could be happening here, guys? Maybe I need to replace the placeholder. Let me see. So if I say, to label the placeholder, if I say placeholder is equals to that, and width is equals to that, parameter of text wrapper width int. Okay, yeah, should be good. Oh yeah, you need to load arguments. I'm sure there's an interesting story behind why I have to do that. Maybe the way the arguments are ordered internally is different the moment you are past the width parameter. So from width, now you have to specify which values you're passing in, or it's calling a different function that has like variable arguments or something. Oh yeah, okay, no, it's cool. It's we are looking at multiple things, and yeah, I hope Brazil is good. And thanks for joining. Anyway, so you have to pass in the parameter values for you to like get what's happening. Then yeah, so that's Textwrap. You can do a bunch of other things with it. So you did shorten. We did. You can do didn't, which is the one I was heading to. It's related to what we are doing with the sample Java code we just looked at. And let me just look through the spec. So textwrap.didn't remove any common leading white spaces from every line in text. This can be used to make triple quoted strings like lineup with the left edges of the display while still presenting them in a source code in indented form. So if you're doing text blocks and you have trailing white space, the didn't value is able to like remove that. Equivalent version in Java is actually defined in the spec for on the JEP. So I'll just go back to that JEP. If I didn't lose the JEP. I think I stored the index for it. 378. Oh, guys are joining now. We're almost done. Anyway, let me look at the JEP for that text block. So there's a section here on. So we've seen this and we've seen how you can do that. And polyglot. So you can use this for SQL stuff. You can use it for HTML, JSON. I think that example has been clear so far. There's a point here on some very important point on the trailing white space and how that's handled. Oh yeah, it is. So significant trailing line policy. Is it this one? It should be a section on, yeah, incidental white space. Yeah. So yeah, it is. I know the font is small. So let me see if I can zoom into this. Okay, that should be good. Yeah, so this section on incidental white space talks about the text blocks shown above were easier to read than their concatenated string literal, of course, because you don't have to use escape characters, escape sequence characters. But then the obvious interpretation for the content of a text block will include the spaces added to the indent, the embedded strings that it lines up neatly with the opening delimiter. So like if you're doing HTML, of course, you need to format it in a certain way. So use the HTML using DOS to visualize the spaces that developer added for indentation. So there you go. So this is your primary indentation. So what this talks about is the spaces that are indicated with the dot. Those are implied. The compiler implies that they are, if I'm allowed to use the word, they are valid tab space. Any space that would go beyond this region, you see where the dots are ending, that would be considered trailing white space. So it would be removed by the compiler. So if you had maybe your YAML code and one of those, the first dot, if I can call it, the first line in your text block, if the tab space for the first line and the last line are different, then the compiler will align them so that the incidental white space is preserved. Basically, it knows anything between here and here is valid. You can use that for processing. Anything from there to this other side is programmer implied. Basically, it's you formatting maybe the JSON or the string that you're trying to represent. So if you extract that into a normal string and print it in one line, the space between here and here will be gone. So you won't have HTML. And then if you print it, there's some extra space that it's starting with. But the space from those dots onwards will be preserved in the final string. I think I had a section for object producer artist block. Oh yeah, so yeah, it is. The contents of the text block cannot follow the 3 opening double quotes. No, that's actually, this one is actually different. Let me just do another section for it. So incidental white space. So let's do something that demonstrates that idea. So let's say we have some HTML text, or let's use something normal. Let's just use a message, cool message. And then in this cool message, we have that. And within it, so you see everything from there to there. That's incidental white space. And the IntelliJ is actually helping us. So you can see that blue line. See that blue line? So that's anything behind it is valid space. So if we say, meet me at the garage, Raj. How do you Yeah, sorry, my connection dropped there for a minute. Sorry, I thought I would have to restart it again. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can restore it here as well. Okay, so guys on the Twitter space can also hear me, maybe. Okay. Okay, the Twitter space died, but at least we still have this. I don't know if I should restart it. Let me see. It's almost time to like end it, but no, I can't restart it. Okay, I can't restart it. So I guess we'll just finish with the Google Meet. So yeah, I was talking about incidental white space. So we have these. So we have this text. So if we run that, there would be this space that's between here and here. It's removed by the compiler, so it doesn't become part of your final string. But if you were to do this, then that additional white space would become part of your final string. So this is just something to be aware of. If you're working with something that's like tab space sensitive, like YAML, then you should make sure that you are able to separate the incidental white space from your own intended white space. And an ID like this would make that easy for you because it's clearly marking where that should start and end. But then if maybe you're using a Vim or something else, or you're writing your code elsewhere, then I guess that it will be a bit challenging to like know where that starts and the valid white space ends. So let's just see what the spec again talks about regarding that. Since the opening denominator is generally positioned to appear on the same line as the statement or expression, which constitutes the text block, there is no real significance to the fact that 14 visualized spaces start each line. So anyway, this spec goes more into like explaining how that is handled, because you have things like YAML that are very, very sensitive to the amount of tab space that you have between the contents of each line. More like Python. I think Python is kind of acts the same way. The tab space is very, very significant to how the program is executed eventually. Yeah. So we've looked at that. So I'm thinking we finish up with the text blocks. In my mind, I thought we would be able to do text blocks and go into interpolation within the same session, but I see we are heading to like 22:30. So I don't want this to go up to 23. It will be strange because since we started at 8. So we'll just look at some more ideas on text blocks and then we'll close it there. My hope is next week we can like pick up from there and look at concatenation, look at interpolation, and some other string processing concepts. And of course, some more enhancement proposals like string templates, which have some interesting things. Anyway, let's just finish with the text blocks and then I can allow you guys to, we can allow this one to be episode 005 to be that. Okay, so there's some other concepts here. So objects produced from a text block is a Java string. I think we're able to demonstrate that with looking at when you apply string processing functions. So you can essentially do everything in a text block the way you'd like do it with a regular string or a legacy string, if I can call it that. So text blocks may be intermixed with string literals in a string concatenation expression. Yeah, so if you have a text block, you can concat them with the normal string. So let's say we do var or just have cool message. So let's say var final or concatenated message. We'd be able to go ahead and do cool message. Or other we can do, you can say, okay, cool message plus this is cool message. So the cool message will behave like a normal string, so you can do concatenation with it. So you can, if you have like two YAML configs and you want to combine them into one, so you can take one text block, combine it with another text block to form one. Or if you have like another HTML, contents of another HTML, the HTML, and you have the contents of the maybe CSS or whatever, or the headers for the HTML, you can like combine them into one using concatenation, and then you'll end up with the concatenated string. So this should print cool message, and when cool message is this indented string, and the string that we've just added to it, which I guess should be like super obvious, but let's just validate that. Let me make this interesting. Maybe add something like some arrows. Oh yeah, so we end up with that. So that is it took this string, concatenated it with our text block, and that's what we ended up with. What we should observe also is there's an escape. There's a new line that's provided by default from the text block. So I think that's something you should be aware of. It seems depending on how you structure the text block, you get like at the end of the string, there's an automatic new line escape sequence. But you could do, I saw this in the spec, so let's just try it out. So if you did this, then the new line would disappear. If the ending triple quotation is in line with the last line in the text block, the final string doesn't have that ending trailing, the trailing escape sequence or whatever. So if we run this, yeah, you'll see that new line is gone. Yeah, text blocks, just like strings, text blocks can be used as method arguments. We are already able to use them as method arguments here because we like passed in cool message. So we pass that into the line function. So just like in a string, you can pass them in. String methods may be applied to a text block. Yeah. I think it's the same concatenation thing that we did. No, this refers to the replace functions, index at functions. You can call any string type function from a text block. And maybe to demonstrate that, you can say var HTML text, and we have some HTML text here. HTML. HTML. So I can come here and do replace. I can do, maybe I can say replace HTML with something else. I can do get bytes. I can do to lowercase. I can do to upper. Basically, any string method can be applied to the text block. Yeah, so it can be used to increase readability. I think that's apparently clear. And you can put a text block on a single line. So what this implies is you can do this var some JSON is equals to some JSON text. So you can do this some JSON text. So yeah, you'll get an error for that. Illegal text block starting missing new line after opening quotes. So they cannot be in the same line, which is like makes sense. If you want to do this, just use a regular string, like that, and that would be okay. So you cannot take a text block and use it the way you'd use a normal string, at least in the representation sense. The contents of the text block cannot follow the 3 opening double quotes on the same line. Contents of the text block cannot follow the 3 opening double quotes on the same line. Okay, I think I've forgotten what I was supposed to imply from that one. Let me see if I can pull it from the spec. If I can't, I think it's fine. Let me. I think it's referring to the fact that you cannot, the contents of the text block cannot follow. Oh yeah, this is referring to the same example I showed earlier. So the contents cannot be in the same line as the opening quotes, opening 3 triple quotes of the text block. So yeah, represent a multiline string with the final, represent a multiline string with this. So what I wanted to demonstrate here is basically the trick that I pulled there. So if we do var final example is equals to then we do this is the final example. It is the last one. If we print this, let's observe how it will be displayed. Final example. So look at, so we have, this is the final example, it is the last one. So if then we change that and put this in the same line, there's an additional new line character that disappears. The way to see that additional new line character is if we displayed the string twice. So if we display the string twice, and that's how we've formatted it, basically they're aligned. The idea is giving us some indication there. Look at the text that's displayed. Is the final example, it is the last one. So these are the 2 strings. So you'll notice there is some additional space here, which means we have 3 \n. So if we change the formatting and did that, this is what we end up with. So depending on the position of the closing quotation marks or the closing triple quotes, you can either get an automatic closing \n or you end up without one. So if you're doing, usually these APIs, when they do simple things like this, it might seem trivial, but when you're doing some data processing, then it might stand between getting the correct thing and the invalid text. An example is if you're doing regex and the input string that you're processing, your regex is sensitive to spaces or new line characters. So if it accidentally has an additional new line character, then after your regex has worked and you've extracted the contents of the text you wanted to extract, whether or not the regex work correctly depends on how you formatted the input. So if you formatted the input with that additional new line character, then you end up with something different. Yeah, I think that's it. Oof, this API has a lot of features. Okay, let me do this last one. If you've ever programmed with the C, I'm sure you've written code that looks something like, oh, can I remember C? We used to do printf, and then you do %d, and then you do like a value, like 34. And this would take 34 and print it. In Java, this would be like string.format. Then you'd say mileage %d. Maybe let me make it a bit more exotic. Percentage copper 2f is 4,000, 4,000, but 5,000 maybe, and 0.76. So this would print mileage is 45,000 and 0.76, I think. Okay, I've not yet printed it. Let me assign. Call this old car. So if I S out that, we end up with, I think we'd end up with that. Yeah, mileage is 45,000.76. Of course, it's not properly formatted, and there's like some extra decimal points there. But anyway, I'll not stress about that for now. But basically, you'd be able to do this type of formatting, string formatting. So how would you do that if it was a text block? So with a text block, it's kind of the same thing. So we would do var. So with the text block, maybe we'll do var Toyota old is equals to triple quote. Then we would do mileage %, 2f, just the same as we did there. Maybe we say kilometers. And so how do we plug in the values? So here we're able to start with string.format. So here we can do and call this new API function formatted, and with that we can pass in the value 0.76. So that's how you replicate that C-style programming in text blocks. So if you have something, I've actually used that API. So if I have an email template that I'm sending to users or to customers, and you want to add a customized greeting message at the top as the title of the HTML, so that maybe if it comes on email, they get like, hey, so-and-so, their name on it, you can do a %s and then pass in the name of the user or some other values within the email template, and then you send it with those values plugged in. So actually that might seem trivial, but that's a really good feature. So now if we print our Toyota old, we should be able to get the mileage representation. Maybe it might end up being a bit different, but let's see. Yeah, it's very much the same. So that's how you would still be able to do string formatting. And there you can plug in anything. So if you want to plug in a message, let's say %s for maybe that unit for measuring it. So you can plug it in later and say kilometer. Maybe in some places, maybe it's miles per hour or something. I'm sorry, if it's like mileage, you can plug that in. So any C-style string formatting, %d, %f, %s, you can use that to pass in value to your text block, which I think is what we do with strings a lot. Yeah. Okay. The last one. So use Java string.trim to remove white space at the start or end of the line. So remember that example that I showed you where there's some interesting new line that's plugged in automatically. So if you don't want to change the way you represent the string and still want to get rid of that new line, well, there's this API function for it. So let's say I say I have a multi-line text here, and it's multi-line, and what it has is number 1, James Odio maybe. Number 2 is Peter Luna. To admit that I'm liking. Oh yeah. Okay, we had already joined. I have to admit that I'm liking the Hangouts format better than doing this on Twitter Space. And deep down, I'm contemplating moving it completely from Twitter Space to just Hangouts. Google Meet. Google killed Hangouts, unfortunately. Anyway, so I'm thinking of moving it completely to Google Meet, and I think it will work better that way. And also, there's a lot of guys who are joining on Twitter Space, and then they would realize, oh, I can't get anything, and then they would like leave. So I guess we won't make it misleading. If it's okay with you guys, I think we'll do Google Meet, and that will work better. This has been better than the others because I'd have to type the code and then do carbon and then like paste it in the tweet, and there was a lot of time lost in between. So I think this format is way better. Yeah. So that's it, guys. I don't know if anybody has a question or a comment or whatever before we shut it down, and look forward to next week. There was a suggestion that we do Friday and Saturday. I don't know what you guys feel about that. For me, when we usually have them, we end up talking about, oh, we'll do this in the next session, next Friday. So I don't know. I can do Saturday, but intermittent. So like if I get time, I just block some time and we do it on that Saturday. I think that would be nice. Yeah. But yeah, I guess this has been good. So if anybody has a question or a comment, you can share on the chat or you can request the mic. I don't know if you're able to like request the mic on this one. Oh yeah, and this is the accident I was talking about. You can see my hand is a bit decolorized. So I was without my right hand for a while. That's why we took that long 1 month break. But yeah, I'm glad we are back and I'm like typing with it. So it's good. Yeah, DI solutions, open queue.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, hello, what's up?
All right, so
how are you doing?
This is my first time here. I'm really grateful to I've learned a lot. I've not been doing like Java, but I've been doing other languages, so it's pretty interesting to see that. So my suggestion was, how about we do like how do we say, like use cases? I don't know, like the ones we had were use cases, yes, but what trivial examples, like real world use cases would be nice, for like future sessions, so that we know where the text blocks come in and stuff like that. Yeah, that was my suggestion. So something like, how do we say, like the way you are manipulating strings, we see how we can use it, let's say, in a real world situation, like together with, I don't know, like JSON together with other JSONs and stuff. I don't know, something like that, something along those lines. I don't know. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, brilliant idea. Thanks, DI Solutions. Yeah, that's actually pretty awesome. I think I'd like to follow up on that one. So I think on the next one we can do a real world example. Maybe do email delivery, where you have like an email template, and the email template contains JS, it has HTML, it has some CSS inside there, and you are plugging in data models, and you are processing it or passing it in a certain way, and doing like customized emails with it. So yeah, I think we can do a follow up. We look at the spec, and the best way to look at the specification is using these trivial examples. And then when we are done looking at the spec, like we looked at JEP 378. We've seen some of the examples that are there. We've played around with the trivial forms of it. So then we can do more real world use cases in the next space before we move to interpolation. And even after we do interpolation, we try to relate it to like real world examples. I think that would be nice. The only request I would have is if we do that, then you guys as members of the community, you can like, because I'm going to publish, this will be a public GitHub repository. So in fact, let me just do something interesting here. So I'm creating a directory, like a package. I'll just call it use cases. So in that directory, anybody can go ahead and contribute either an idea for a use case, use cases, or reference examples. So you can contribute a use case, idea, link. You can contribute a use case idea. You can contribute a link to a GitHub repository of your own with the use case, and then we can look at it when we meet. Or you can submit a class Java source file. Can be Java, whatever. You can submit a source file with sample code to discuss. And you guys can put it in that directory. So I'll publish all of this to GitHub. So anytime you like have some space, you can like do that. But I think it will be up to me also to create time and come up with some of these use case examples, and then we can we can try and connect what we are discussing with the real world. Anybody else? Feel free to like request the mic, or just unmute yourself. I think you're able to just unmute and speak. Otherwise, what we've done is now on the GitHub repository. So you just go to some below in our regard, you'll be able to find the stuff that we did today. I'll try to delete master, though I know that's not possible, but I'll try. Yeah, so you guys can put any of that stuff under under this directory. I think it will be welcomed. Anybody else before we close it? It's almost 23, man. I think we've outdid ourselves. Data, don't worry, we'll look at some Kotlin next time. I had intended that we also combine with Kotlin, though Kotlin doesn't have some of the specs for some of the things we're discussing. I think they plugged them in version 1, so I think they just decided no need to specify V1. So I didn't find any documentation regarding text blocks, although I know the language supports text blocks, and some of the formatting support that's there. But yeah, I will play with some of those examples next time. So anyway, so tomorrow I'll try and I don't know. I feel inspired. So tomorrow I'll try and squeeze in time around 8 p.m. I'll announce it on Twitter if I'm. Oh, Jack is joining now. Jack, you're late. We are closing. Anyway, so I'll try and squeeze in time. I'll announce it on Twitter. If I'll do a tweet and see whether we can do a follow up tomorrow 8 p.m. And that follow up is look at text blocks in Kotlin, number one, and look at text blocks more in depth in Python, and also try to do a use case scenario. And the use case scenario will be trying to play around with this email delivery using email templates and maybe some YAML stuff if I'm able to put together an example. JSON processing, maybe, but I'll need to look for something that doesn't seem like overkill, because within the language we have APIs and libraries for doing JSON processing. So trying to do JSON processing on your own would seem a bit unnecessary. But maybe you want to do JSON processing without defining like a record or a data class or something. So you just want to pass in the values, which I've seen people do. You'll be surprised. A lot of people do that on their API endpoints. So yeah, maybe we can consider that. Otherwise, you guys have a wonderful night, and thanks for joining, Joe. Thanks for joining, Joe. We'll get to classified API soon. Usijali. I'm also still, yeah.
I don't know. It's okay. Actually, this is my first time to witness the templates, the string templates. They look awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
nice. Now I wish I went all the. I wish I got all the way to 4:30, because I think this is where it gets interesting. And there's some stuff to do with SQL. And there's of course string composition with formatting. We looked at that, and string buffer and string builder. I wanted to like look at that on that one. So I think we'll do a detour to this. I'm happy. I was the one to like first of all introduce you to the template, to the text blocks and the string templates. So that's really cool. But we'll get to classified API and some of those advanced things that we've been discussing in the past. I think these ones are still just as important, although for some they might seem trivial. So DI solutions, you are really instrumental. Thanks for the Python examples. I got stuck a lot, so thanks for helping with that. Kahia Peterson, thanks for joining. Patrick, Jack, you are late, but at least you joined. So we might do tomorrow 8 p.m. So
yeah, Polly, man. I had a thing.
Okay. Oh, you had a thing. It's Friday.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. I hope you're not here because the thing didn't work.
No.
But it's okay. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
That's the sleepover arrangement. Somebody called in sick or something. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Joka254, you joined early and stuck around until sites like the end. So thanks for joining. Michael M, thanks for joining. Michael M, I think that profile I've seen it on Twitter. So I don't know. Maybe I know your account. Derito, we'll look at the Kotlin, Usijali. But I had planned to like jump from Java to Python to Kotlin, but I guess the amount of stuff in between made that a bit difficult. So I think tomorrow, if we do tomorrow, I'll try and prioritize some stuff to do with Kotlin, so that we're able to look at that. Michael Dorr. Michael. Yeah, thanks for joining, man. Aderemi, thanks for joining. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I saw you on the Twitter space. I think you realized, let me come to Google Meet. We'll do Google Meet so that we don't have people going to Twitter space for nothing. Patrick, Patrick, you are there since we started, so thanks for joining. settings. Yeah, settings. Settings. I know that profile from Twitter, so I think I can connect your account and your Gmail. So I have an early morning tomorrow, so I think it will be interesting, but it's still early. Just have dinner and then close it. But thank you guys for joining, and I don't know. See you guys tomorrow or Friday. I'll let you guys know on Twitter. But thanks for joining. I hope you're able to like pick up some things, and check out the GitHub repository, /Olgard. I'll be putting most of the things we do there, and it will become a bit more organized with time. But thank you guys for joining. Have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful night. So you can say your goodbyes before Nikate. Okay. Bye, guys.